Hi, it's Danny, hope you're good. And this is another deconstruction video using Logic Pro 10. This is from the current EP on Just Underground Recordings, the Winter Collection, and it's called MJ's Groove. I'm going to take a look at the programming, the choice of sounds, some of the ideas behind the arrangement, and also the fact that this is a tribute to the one and only DJ MJ. Yeah, MJ's been supporting my music, so I wanted to really say thank you and just to really create a tribute to the kind of style that she plays, which is really nice and diverse. And there was something about this that reminded me of her and her vibe, so I reached out to her and she was down with it. So let's take a look. Now, focused on the beats here, so I've got the cycle around the main section with the programming. This is using the Drum Machine Designer. This is a preset kit called Atlanta. I'm going to bring this up so we can see it. So the programming is the real key to this. Okay, so let's take a look. This is soloed. So let's take a look at some of the key elements here. One of the first things that you might be hearing, in fact, I didn't have all of the programming focused here, so I've just moved this down and you can see it. One of the most important things I want to draw your attention to is the kick drum. Okay, so when we're programming kick drums, when you're dealing with a more kind of house kind of rhythm, we would expect a beat on every single, a kick on every single beat. Okay. But here it's a bit more what we would class as syncopated. So the positioning varies a bit more and it's a bit more lively. And so I did this deliberately. I wanted to have something that almost felt kind of broken beat, almost two-steppy. And there's certainly an element of that happening. And I'm just going to really zoom in on just really one bar. So here we have where we break from the norm. Okay, so usually you'd expect this kick to be on the next beat. This is slightly before, okay, and this is quantized away from the grid. You can see that. So it's swung, okay, so it's reasonably heavily swung, so it's got a real nice vibe to it. Now this is replicated in terms of the atmosphere of the timing over here, where it's doubling up the kick that we've just had on the beat with a swung extra beat. So have a listen again. Just going to pull up the mixer. I'm going to expose this so we can see the individual sounds. I'm going to solo these hats. You can also hear some of the effects coming back from the clap. Ignore that for the moment. But focus on these hi-hats. So the programming here, let's take a look at that. So those hats you can see, we've got one here and another here. Different tones, different textures. So one is kind of thicker than the other. So we create this contrast. And so the programming really is emphasizing the difference between the two. And it's really got that kind of swung vibe you can see here at certain positions that are off the grid. That's where the real interesting flavor comes from this. And there is also another kick drum. Okay, so this is a different tone. And then also we have, of course, the clap that you heard a second ago. And I really think this second kick plays an important part of what we're hearing there. So that's the programming. There's not too much variation across the track. Every now and again you can see that it stops and starts again. But there are other elements that are being used to create the variation. Okay, so we have the DJ style intro, and then we have the addition of a couple of extra new textures. And I did strip the beats right back at the very beginning. So here. And then we add the hi-hats. Next section. Crash cymbal, which is very much the 808 style crash. That was coming from the Drum Machine Designer as a separate instance. And then this abstract atmosphere is just an Apple loop. Okay, I just wanted to add some kind of new texture. And then towards the end of the bar, we've got a fill, which is created by this boom, which is another Apple sound effect. I'm going to solo that for you. That could have been achieved very easily by using a virtual analog synthesizer and having a tone with a pitch envelope on it, or even, you know, creating a pitch bend to do that. But I was just going for something for speed, and I found that in the library and I put it in there. But also I've got a copy of the beats. So the same drum machine designer. So the same programming is being used, but I'm using this remix effects, which some would say is kind of a gimmick, but this is quite fun to play around with. It's like a DJ style effect that exists in Logic. So let's just solo the original beats and then the copy here. So you can hear it's like a filtered version of the beats, and that's to add a change so that you actually feel that something new is coming in. So it's being used as a fill. So that's backed up by the boom. And that's because we have a new element coming in. So over here. Now there's a snare as well coming through. Drum machine designer. Here's the snare. I'll solo that. So it's kind of like a 808 style snare as well. The chord, let's take a look at this. This is a real backbone of the whole composition, and it evolves over time. I'm going to push A so that we can see this. Just going to open up. You can see the filter cutoff is changing over time here. This was a custom instrument that I created, very simple, on the Retro Synth, which is a Logic stock instrument. And you can see here that there's a blend between two sawtooths, and this is something that's running through the filter to create this chord sound. The other thing is that the chords, the notes, are coming from the chord trigger. So this is the MIDI device. This is running with a major 7, 9, 11, 13. So that's the voicing on the chord. So I'm just using one finger to play this, and you can probably see that in the MIDI. Very simple. And the filter is changing over time. So that creates the variety. Let's bring this over. And in fact, what I used, instead of adjusting the cutoff, I actually adjusted the envelope amount. So that's how much of the filter envelope is being applied to the filter cutoff. And there's the filter envelope down here. So that created a real interesting vibe. And you can see that I'm tweaking that in real time, essentially. I put the automation on record. And in fact, I can't remember which mode, whether it was touch or latch. So this increases in intensity at certain moments over time. And really, I need to give you the context of what's going on there. The other thing I want to do, though, is I want to introduce the other elements that come through. So there are the bells over here. This is an alchemy patch called adding. So using the same chords. And then we have the bass. The instrument being used here is the EFM1, which is a classic Logic instrument. I adjusted the tone here by using the default patch and then made some changes. I think I reduced the FM depth. I worked with the sub level just to get that nice kind of warm subby bottom end. Also a touch of stereo detune as well. Okay. The one thing that I probably need to point out is the fact that there is a sine chain compression coming through here. So whenever the kick's hitting, that's being reduced in volume. So that helps it sit in the mix a bit better. And there's a vocal that's come in, but look, let's focus on these changes with the filter. Have a listen. So what's happened is the filter is now warmer, so we don't have so much brightness in the chords anymore, which gives a lot of space for the vocal that's come through. This is a Logic Apple Loop vocal, so it's something from the library. It's sat really nicely, and that's in there. There's a singer called Bailey who is performing that. So let's have a listen. Oh, oh. bring the chord on for context. The other thing I want to show you here is the signal chain used for this. This is on the Slate Digital Virtual Mix Rack. This is using the preset that actually makes use of the new FG2A, which is based on the classic LA2A compressor, which is one of my favorite compressors for vocals. So this is a preset chain that they had that I tweaked to sit nicely with the vocal. This does make a big difference. Let me just show this to you. All right, so let me take away the chord. Let's have a listen. If I get the cycle position right, that would really help. So let me bring this over. Let's do this. So that's with the processing. Here's without. And of course, there's a difference in level. I haven't matched the levels there, but you can really hear that there's a lot of extra energy to that there cutting through. Just a note on the actual send effect. So I'm using the Slate Digital Verb Suite, and this is using the default impulse that you've got there. And you know, that's a plate reverb, and it sounds fantastic. So that's being used there to add some space around the vocal. In this case, I'm not using any delay. So that's something quite common that I would use on a production, but I'm not using a delay on this one. It's just simply a reverb on that vocal. So let's hear that sitting in there. Nice little tambourine loop here from the Apple Loops library, just to add some extra texture on there. And it's a new vocal. And also what you'll hear is happening now is that in the drum programming, there is an open hi-hat, which is here. So this kind of picks up the energy when this comes in. Let's go back, in fact, to that vocal. So this is a male vocal. So there's a contrast, there's a different tone. Once again, vocal mix rack, similar chain. Just adjust it to work with that particular voice. So here's something interesting. This is a pad, and this is coming from the Model 15. This is from Moog, or should I say Moog, which is the correct pronunciation. But this was originally an iPad app and iPhone app as well. And because I'm running with a Apple Silicon Mac on Big Sur, this is now running inside the Mac, inside Logic, which is fantastic. So I've got a brand new instrument that I didn't have before inside Logic. Yes, I had it on phone before, but now it's here and it sounds fantastic. It's great. So that is running here, providing a nice warm kind of pad sound. And what we've got here in terms of the structure is really very similar in that we have a lot of repetition going on here. The repetition is kind of working because of the fact that the filter is moving on the chord. So we get variety there through that and a couple of other subtle changes over time. But then we have a breakdown, and the breakdown is using the filtered version of the beats. The vocal hook comes back. There are some adjustments made to the plugin that we saw before. So the remix effects, the position is changing here. It's working in conjunction with also this riser that's occurring. This is Serum Patch. It's the 16-bar riser. So it's creating a sense that something is coming, which is, you know, it's this build up and then it drops back into the main beat and bass. So really stripping it down to beats and bass. chords have gone, which is a nice change because we've heard them over and over again up until this point. And essentially what you're doing there is reusing existing assets in a new way. So that's something I would recommend you do. Sometimes if you need to make a change, just take something out. When it comes back, it's like a warm welcome to the sound. And because we're hearing something that we've heard before, I'm also making a couple of subtle changes. You can see I'm dropping the beats out. And that's to emphasize certain parts of the vocal. Then we have the final section where it breaks down. Certainly nothing dramatic here. A sub boom to lead into that section. Chords gone again, and belts here. Filtered beats. Vocal just chopping in there. So really now we're looking at the outro for the piece of music. And just thing to note, we keep getting spinning beach ball. That's because I've got my buffer size set really low. And I'm also running with the screen recording software at the same time. Okay, so bear that in mind. So there's a lot of stuff happening. And I think I should have increased my buffer size really to record the video. But aside from that, the M1 has been an absolute pleasure to work on. It's just actually a game changer because I've been able to record and perform stuff in it's super low latency. We're talking about 32 buffer size, which is amazing. So the response from the keyboard is fantastic. So anyway, we're on the outro for DJs now. That's it. Last thing I want to do is once again come back to the mastering chain. And so we've got the VBC, the FG Grey. So this is an SSL bus compressor emulation. Attack is set to 30, release to auto. Ratio, just 2. Not too much gain reduction. Got the Drama S73 with a little bit of multi-band compression going on there. Soft tube tape, type 2, type B, should I say. Noise on, because I like a bit of kind of old school atmosphere on there. Very slight amount of instability on pitch, very slight. The BX console, because I've used this elsewhere. I do not know why I placed it at that point, but it's fine. Fresh air, this is adding some nice high-end sparkle. And then finally, on the end of the chain, is the Slate Digital FGX. So that's my mastering chain that I'm using. And the reason for that is because, as I mentioned on another video, Stuart Kettridge is busy with other things at the moment. He hasn't had time to be able to do my mastering. So I've done it myself and getting some fantastic responses actually back from people that have played these things. So I'm pleased how it all turned out. So that's it. If you do have any questions, put them into the section below. I'll see if I can get back. And I think that's about it. It's all available on the services now. It's on TrackSource, it's on Spotify, Apple Music, etc. So yeah, cool. Stay safe.